In February of 2023, the Japanese police brought back several robbery and fraud suspects from the Philippines back to Japan. This is after a couple of cases that absolutely dominated Japanese national news. The group that was brought back from the Philippines to Japan was known as the Luffy Group because one of the members used the name Luffy as their alias. I cannot stress this enough, it has no connection to the anime or the world of One Piece. For some reason, this individual just chose the name Luffy. Looking at the group's crimes, they clearly never watched One Piece. Japanese investigators believe that this network was connected to a string of robberies and phone fraud cases across the entirety of Japan, with instructions for these robberies and frauds being sent from Japanese nationals living overseas through smartphones and messaging apps. One of the cases linked to this crime wave, the one that probably spurred the massive investigation internationally, was the January 2023 robber and murder of a 90-year-old Japanese woman named Kinuo Oshio in Komae, Tokyo. The case rippled through Japanese media and it was absolutely devastating. It showed how online recruitment for criminal jobs could move from scams and phone jackings to something way more violent, like home invasions. For decades, hearing a story like this in Japan would be instantly linked to the Japanese Yakuza. This was something completely different from the Yakuza. It was loose, it was fluid, it was an anonymous criminal network that engaged mostly online. This criminal network was something completely new to the Japanese National Police Agency. The Japanese National Police Agency now calls these groups anonymous and fluid criminal organizations, or for short, Tokuryu. For most of the 20th century, the Yakuza were the face of Japanese organized crime. But they weren't invisible, not by any means. They were actually very, very public. The Yakuza organizations had names, they had offices, they had senior members, they had territories and long histories. They weren't invisible. Police knew who they were, they knew who they were dealing with. Journalists knew exactly where to find them, and in some neighborhoods, local residents knew exactly where the local gang offices were located. They were in the open. It was the golden age of the Yakuza. Unlike criminal organizations of today, the Yakuza was very much an open organization. But I don't mean open in the case of everyone is welcome, more open as in you knew exactly who they were, where they were, and what they were doing. The Yakuza's influence only grew during Japan's post-war recovery and economic boom. Whether you're in Japan, America, or any other country in between, organized crime groups make their money through very similar ways. Gambling, extortion, debt collecting, entertainment districts, construction, and of course, interfering in private businesses. Think of the Italian mob in America. The Yakuza was very much doing a similar thing, but in Japan. The National Police Agency at this time did have the Yakuza in their sights, and even started making broad terms for criminal organizations in order to catch the entirety of the Yakuza in one fell swoop. The police agency described traditional organized crime groups as groups using their organized power to gain profits through activities such as drug smuggling, extortion, gambling, interfering with civil affairs, and of course, the selling and buying of illegal substances. The Yakuza peaked during the 1960s, but their criminal numbers at this time were absolutely phenomenal. Even by modern standards, the Yakuza was a massive criminal organization during the 1960s. The Guardian, citing National Police Agency figures at the time, had the Yakuza numbers at around 180,000 members and associates. The Yakuza during the 1960s and even today in modern day Japan has a sort of mythology based around it, this kind of ancient samurai tradition being passed down through generations. And whether that's true or not didn't really seem to matter to the Yakuza themselves, for they could use that mythology to benefit and boost their own organizational numbers, powers, and control. Films and books during this time helped spread the idea of Japanese gangsters living by an idea of loyalty, hierarchy, and sacrifice, even though the reality of being in a gang, the reality of joining the Yakuza, was much different and much uglier. For young men who felt shut out by normal everyday society, the Yakuza felt like the only place they could join. The Yakuza offered money, status, acceptance, and a place of belonging for men who seemed to be pushed out by normative society of the day. By the 1980s, the Yakuza had become the most recognized criminal organization in the world. And you've got to take that for a minute. Not in Japan, in the entire world. Even today, the Yakuza lore has been spreading. There are video games, books, TV series, even old dramas centered around this Japanese criminal organization. Perhaps it's a curiosity for the mythology that centers around the Yakuza that brought so many people to want to learn more about it. Or it could just be that humans are kind of sick and they like seeing the dark underbellies of society. But either way, the Japanese criminal organization known as the Yakuza is still one of the most known criminal organizations in the world. Which is strange because there was a crackdown.
Shame. Shame.
The Japanese Yakuza during the 1960s was 180,000 members deep. You couldn't take out this organization in one fell swoop. It had to be something a lot slower. The Japanese National Police Agency had another idea for weakening the Japanese Yakuza. Instead of trying to take them out in one fell swoop, they decided to weaken them by making life harder for the Yakuza in Japan. The Japanese police force and the Japanese government started where all things begin, and that's with law. The Japanese government created the legal groundwork needed to start the long and boring process of slowly breaking up the Japanese Yakuza. It began with a simple act, the Act on Preventing of Unjust Acts by Organized Crime Group Members. The name is very long, but it's commonly discussed as the Anti-Boryokudan Act, which is the Anti-Unjust Violence, etc. Act. The Anti-Boryokudan Act was enacted in May of 1991, but it was finally enforced in March of 1992. The act was just the start. It was only level 1. It was slowly revised and strengthened over years, strengthening its effect to make it harder for Yakuzas to live in Japanese society. The pressure did not stop with just police enforcement. They were doubling down. Exclusion ordinance and anti-gang measures made it harder for the Japanese Yakuza members to function in ordinary society. Remember, the entire strategy of this time was just to make it harder for Japanese Yakuza to live in Japan. And this doesn't mean they were trying to kick them out of society, they were just trying to close off sections of society that the Japanese Yakuza members needed to access in order to live in everyday society. Nippon.com explains that the 1991 law laid the groundwork for the legal barriers to alienate the Japanese Yakuza from the rest of society. And then the further exclusion ordinance made it harder for gang members to support themselves or their families. So to a large extent, it wasn't about getting Japanese Yakuza members to leave the Yakuza, it was about making the Yakuza as a whole an organization that people would not want to join. They're trying to starve the group of new members, while they're also starving existing members from society. Or of society, I guess. The Yakuza gang life quickly became less alluring to new members, for if you were a Yakuza, there was a massive section of Japanese society you were not allowed access to. Yakuza members were not allowed access to basic services essential for living in a country. We're talking Japanese bank accounts, credit cards, insurance policies, even something so simple as having a mobile phone contract. You are not allowed as a Japanese Yakuza member. Even today in modern day Japan, these policies are so strong, even international people coming to Japan find it difficult to open bank accounts. If your name is similar or the same as a name that's been linked to organized crime outside of Japan, you may not be allowed to have a bank account or a phone contract until they've done extensive checkings on who you are and how did you get here. It's also why it's so difficult for international people to transfer money abroad from their Japanese bank accounts. Japanese banks are extremely worried about money laundering happening in their accounts. So worried, they would rather freeze your money in Japan, not allowing you to use, send, and transfer it, than risk doing a little bit of money transferring, you know, a little bit of international shenanigans. And I get it, no one wants their bank pinged by some kind of global international agency for doing organized crime and bad stuff, but at the same time, Japan, you gotta chill. Japan, chill. Bob Sensei from Happy English School is definitely not transferring money back to America. I can tell you that for sure, dude. I can tell you that for sure. I'm not Team Yakuza by any means, but this policy was absolutely brutal. And it worked. It was a painful, long, and slow collapse of the Japanese Yakuza as we know it. Younger people stopped joining the Yakuza. Older people aged out. The organization shrank year by year by year, and by 2025, the Japanese media reported that Yakuza members and their associates had fallen to the lowest number it had ever been, at 17,600 members. In 60 short years, their numbers dropped from 180,000 to just over 17,000. On paper, it was a success. It was a major victory for the National Japanese Police Association and the government. Membership shrank, the Yakuza is weakened. Banzai, right? Roll out the parade. Let's go. Japan had spent decades targeting the most famous criminal organization and their numbers, and it showed the old system was dying. The Japanese government had done it. Roll out the congratulations banners. Stop the music. The problem was, crime didn't die with the Yakuza. The Japanese government spent so much time trying to kill off the Yakuza, so much time linking crime to the Yakuza, they forgot that crime is an entity amongst itself. Stopping one criminal organization just leaves a power vacuum. A vacuum that has to be filled.
The secret ingredient is crime.
As the Yakuza declined, the police started focusing on an entirely different type of criminal network. The National Police Agency's 2024 white paper describes these groups as anonymous and fluid criminal organizations. It says that members are loosely connected through social media, job sites, and other channels, with roles divided up and people constantly being replaced. This changes everything. The Japanese police had a plan for the Yakuza, but this new fluid group, it was something completely different. Traditional Yakuza groups, they had leaders, they had senior members, they had regular foot soldiers, stationary offices, and an easily recognizable chain of command that the Japanese police agency could walk up to, slap around the back of the head, and say, hey, stop doing that crime. Tokuryu groups? Well, they're way harder to map because people making the money from the crimes are hidden behind layers and layers of recruitment and temporary participants. The National Police Association says that the core parts of these groups are basically entirely anonymous. And the people actually going out doing the crimes, the foot soldiers, a lot of them are one-time villains. Pop villains. They're basically single-use agents used to commit 1 or 2 crimes and then sent on their way with a paycheck. Criminal freelancers, if you will. And this is why the Japanese police cannot treat the Tokuryu as the new Yakuza, because it's not. It's an entirely new type of criminal organization. The structure is different. The recruitment process is different. The people carrying out the crimes don't even really know the person who's giving them orders. In some cases, the people on the ground doing the crimes don't even know the real names of the people telling them which crimes to do. Sometimes all they have is a username and a default display picture on some shady social network. While the Yakuza had the old criminal organization motif locked down to a T, the Tokuryu is for the modern age.
Labour would wreck the economy.
Tokuryu fits the internet generation absolutely perfectly, as it recruits members like some kind of a dark part-time employment. There's even a Japanese word for it, yami-baito, or dark part-time employment. These loosely connected, organized criminal groups that recruit through social media with promises of high payouts are almost impossible to track, especially with the Japanese police still using the same tired tactics they used in the good old Yakuza days. Many people arrested for these crimes have been reported to be recruited through online yami-baito forms or shady casual work. Some people told police that after joining the yami-baito, they realized that it wasn't on the up and up and tried to leave, but they were threatened by the gang members. So even though they discovered after the fact that the job wasn't legitimate, they were then threatened into being a co-conspirator. In current day Japan, with its stagnant economy where the yen continues to crash, where young people are worried about their future, the allure of quick money may be too much for some to turn away. The pattern for these yami-baito online are also really simple. Someone sees a job posting online offering quick money for a somewhat easy job. They respond and hand over personal information, and from that stage, they're kind of already hooked. They then receive instructions via messaging app on what the job entails. By the time these individuals realize that the work they'll be doing isn't on the up and up, or involves some kind of fraud or theft or robbery, they already feel trapped. The criminals have their information, the criminals have their personal details, there's no way for them to escape. They feel like by giving the information, by applying to the job, they've kind of already done the crime. And I get it, a lot of people are saying, so why don't they go to the police? The Japanese police are useless. I'm pretty sure we've discussed this multiple times. The Japanese police are kind of dog shit. Wasn't there a story a little while ago about a kid who went to the police and said he killed someone, and the police basically said, you know, get out of here, and then he killed another person? They're useless. It's insane. The Tokuryu system is a devastating one for the Japanese police, for it's using new age technology, by which I mean the internet, to get around the old policy set up to dismantle the Yakuza. The Tokuryu system protects the people who are sitting at the top of the organization. If the police go out and arrest the person who's collecting the cash, or who robbed a house, or picked up a package, they only know the username and maybe a fake profile picture of the individual. If anything, they have the chat data from a temporary account or a temporary contact that is now disconnected. The Tokuryu organization can replace the lost member with a new one and keep moving forward like nothing happened. This isn't a theory, mind you. These groups are here. They've been in Japan for a while, they're committing crimes here, they've been connected to fraud, robberies, thefts, illegal amusement businesses, and other money-making schemes in and around Japan. And by the looks of things, these criminal organizations are only growing bigger. The National Police Association's 2024 white papers came out and said that traditional measures alone are not going to be enough to stop this new criminal organization. These groups operate across sectors and prefectures with a constantly changing and fluid method. In my personal opinion, the Japanese police are kind of hot garbage when it comes to actually investigating crimes. They would rather sweep things under the rug, ignore reports, and focus on more easy to win slam dunk cases in order to protect their near perfect conviction rates. And while that may have been perfectly fine during the Yakuza time of Japan, when you could walk over to their building, knock on their door and say, hey, you're under arrest for this obvious crime, we know it's you because we have your photo, your picture, your name, and we know all of your associates, this is different. These new criminal organizations are going to require some serious police investigation, both nationally and internationally. And I think the Japanese police force are up to doing it, but at the same time, they've got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of catching up to do. The scale of these organizations are also way larger than people think. The Guardian reported that 10,000 people were arrested during the period of September 2021 and February 2023, and all of these individuals were classified as Tokuryu. And then in 2026, the Japanese police reported that police took action against 12,178 people connected with Tokuryu related crimes in 2005. The Luffy case of February 2023 was a big one, and it showed why this type of crime is so hard to police. A massive criminal network allegedly operating from the Philippines could use people inside of Japan to carry out scams and robberies. The Ginza watch robbery in 2023 showed the exact same wider problem, just in a different form. The suspects connected through social media in order to carry out a daytime robbery of luxury watches and jewels worth about 300 million yen. As these crimes get more fluid, as these criminal organizations get more fluid, the Japanese police must also become more fluid in order to catch them. And I don't know if you know anything about Japan or Japanese society, but fluid isn't a word I would use to describe it. Rigid, tough, square, rock solid, unmovable. Bureaucracy. These are words to describe it. But this doesn't mean the Japanese police aren't doing anything. In April of 2024, the Japanese National Police Association established a telecom scam alliance investigation team, or TAIT. This investigation team is basically used to unify nationwide efforts against organized fraud, and it's a phenomenal step in the correct direction for Japanese policing. Concurrently, the agency also implemented a new full-time mid-career recruitment system to bring in new, experienced personnel to tackle modern-day complex crimes. These changes are part of broader structural reforms that the Japanese National Police Association has enacted to address increasingly intricate criminal networks, but also officer shortages. The performance of the Japanese police agency's initiatives has yielded mixed results, one would say. We have seen significant victories when it comes to prefectural cross-border arrests, especially in the realm of fraud and scams. But when it comes to digital crimes, the Japanese National Police Association is still struggling. And currently in Japan, the surge in digital financial losses when it comes to online crimes is record-breaking. So, ganbare, Japanese police. The decline of the Yakuza is not a tragedy. These groups made money through violence, extortion, gambling, drugs, putting pressure on legitimate businesses. Japan had every reason to do what it takes to weaken this criminal organization. But the lack of forward thinking from the Japanese police and the Japanese government seems to have created a much bigger problem. A problem that Japan currently isn't 100% equipped to deal with. We all know the old Yakuza was dangerous, but they were very visible. Police could identify the groups, the leaders, the offices that they worked out of, the territories, the members. It was right there, plain as day in front of them. Tokuryu? It's a different game entirely. They're way harder to see, way harder to find, way harder to track down. Because their network can exist through social media, temporary recruitments, hidden organizations, all accessible through the phones of their victims. And in Japan's defense, they did successfully lessen the powers of the Yakuza in Japan, one of the most infamous criminal organizations in the world. But now the question is, has the entity that has slowly been replacing the Yakuza going to be even more difficult to stop? And does Japan have the stomach and the skills to dive into another war against the criminal underworld? We're gonna have to wait and see. And guys, that's all I have. Let me know in the comments down below, do you think the Japanese government and the Japanese police are gonna be able to stop this new criminal organization that's come up in Japan? Let me know in the comments down below. And for those who are not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'm very glad to see you jumping into these deep dives into Japan. And if you've got some more time, we can stick on theme. I've got another video right here about crime in Japan and how it's not what you think. Check it out. But until then, I'm gonna love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm obsessed with these new pants. Woo!